Are the Chiefs being helped out by the refs more so than other teams? Well, that's the question I seek to answer via a deep dive look at the data since Mahomes has become a starter in 2018. We also need to talk about the positive takeaways so far from the first 5 weeks of the season, talk some Chiefs versus Broncos Thursday night football, as well as look at the final injury report for the game. But first, how about those? Alright, shout out to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video, but more on them in a bit, because first I want to talk about some of the most positive takeaways from the Chiefs after the first 5 weeks of the season. I realize we've all grown accustomed to the offense firing at near perfection, and when that doesn't happen, lots of Chiefs Kingdom are not happy about it. But let's be honest here, we've been spoiled since Mahomes took the helm and are easily displeased by the team if the offense isn't leading in virtually every single category. Meanwhile, fans from other teams look at how poorly their team is performing compared to the Chiefs, and then look at us like, wait, you're upset over that? And I get it, there are some concerns here with the team, no doubt. However, in spite of the offensive struggles at times, Mahomes is currently the 4th best QB in EPA per play and the 4th highest graded QB in the NFL per PFF. The Chiefs offense is also still top 7 in most categories, including the 7th highest scoring team in the league, averaging 25.6 points per game despite kneeling out 2 games at the end, basically on the opponent's goal line. Sure, Mahomes said he's not playing his best ball and has things to work on, but what team doesn't? Then, the Chiefs defense is playing incredible, allowing just 16 points per game and are tied for 5th in total points allowed. KC is 4-1, first in the West, and the 1 seed in the AFC right now. And if that's not good enough for you, what struggles they do currently have typically improve as the season goes along. And that's exactly how things went last year. And then Mahomes went on a league-wide frenzy that won him league and Super Bowl MVPs. And then, believe it or not, Mahomes is currently the top MVP favorite per my bookie, and the 2nd favorite behind only Brock Purdy via Bet Online. So there's that for what it's worth. It's still a bit early to say Mahomes will win league MVP in my opinion, but what I am saying is things aren't going so bad here in KC after all. Next up, we got to talk Chiefs versus Broncos, look at the final injury report featuring the return of an incredible linebacker and a surprising injury to a valuable special teams player. Then we got to look at Kelce's ankle, as well as some interesting data to see if the Chiefs really do benefit more from the refs than other teams. But first, I got to be honest with you guys. Before leaving my full-time day job to run this YouTube channel for a living, me and my wife really cracked down on our budget, but over the last year or so, as the channel has grown and demanded a lot more of my time, I find myself with less time to look over all our accounts / budget in a timely and organized manner, and that's why the sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money, has come in clutch, helping us find subscriptions we forgot about and lower our overall monthly expenses. Rocket Money has 3.4 million members and growing, and is an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. The personal finance manager allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, monitor your credit score, and build your savings all in one place. And one unique thing about them is that they can actually help cancel unwanted subscriptions for you with just a tap. Seriously, they will literally do the legwork of canceling the subscriptions, which is perfect for me because instead of chasing these companies down and spending time canceling things, Rocket Money can just do it for me, which frees me up to make even more content for you guys. Another interesting thing they can do is help negotiate and lower your bills, 2 of which I saw from the app was AT&T, my wife's phone carrier, and Vivint, the company we just used to set up security cameras around our house. You can also set up budgets that automatically monitor your spending by category, get friendly notifications when you've exceeded them, and visualize your spend to earn ratio by month, quarter, or year. I also love how I can just see all my accounts and credit cards in one place and monitor them, and even found a couple subscriptions I forgot about that I've been paying for and not using, so definitely gonna need to cancel those subscriptions as well. And to try out Rocket Money for yourself today and unlock more features with premium, head to rocketmoney.com/thosechiefs or just click the link in the description down below. All right, let's talk some Chiefs versus Broncos. The Broncos defense currently leads the league in missed tackles with 60, big plays of 20 or more yards with 28, and they are also dead last in points and yards allowed. And if you look at this graph here, the Broncos are by far the worst team in the league in EPA per drive, mainly driven down by their defense. It's been astronomically bad so far, which is a bit confusing because they were a great defensive unit last year, and I feel like they carried the team for what it's worth. But right now, it is bad. They've allowed the highest passer rating and completion percentage to wide receivers in the league and have really struggled against tight ends as well. Denver is also the worst overall graded defense by far per PFF, the worst in coverage, the worst tackling team. And even though they are graded out as the 19th best offensive team, their overall still balances all the way down at 31st. The defense gives up an average of 36.2 points per game, thanks in part to the Miami Dolphins 70-20 blowout. But they've also lost to the Raiders just by 1 though, Commanders by 2, the Jets by 10, but did manage to squeak out a 3-point victory against the Bears. So if you look at all the close games, they aren't really as bad as their record shows because just like the Vikings, most of those were close one-score games, aside from the Dolphins game, obviously, and then the Jets, that was a 10-point game. But in that Jets game, Russell Wilson and company had the ball at the end of the fourth quarter and were trailing only by 3 when Wilson fumbled and the Jets took it to the house for a touchdown. I did enjoy that. In spite of all that, though, nobody on the team is overlooking a divisional opponent in the Broncos. Andy Reid said Denver has a lot of coaching experience with Sean Payton at the helm. Plus, you know how it is in this league. He's expecting a close, hard-fought game with them because that's how it typically goes against division opponents. Safety Justin Reid said they cannot allow Denver to stick around during the course of the game because that's when it will end up in a brawl. And he noted that Denver's offense is doing well. Quote, Russ has been cooking, is what Justin Reid said, which I found funny, but he was being serious. And he also said this isn't a challenge to be taken lightly. And even though the Chiefs are on a 15-game win streak and could make this 16 after Thursday night, Patrick Mahomes does not care. He's just worried about winning against a division opponent. No matter the record, he said it's going to be a hard-fought game down to the end, and he just wants to go out there and find a way to win. Quote, it's a different football game regarding a division opponent. It's more physical, it's faster, and the mistakes, you have to minimize them because they mean more. He also complimented Russell Wilson, calling him a top-tier QB who is playing good football. People put all the blame on him at times, but again, he's playing well, and Mahomes is excited for the opportunity they have to go against a great team. And offensively, the Broncos are definitely playing better than their defense. They're averaging 24.2 points per game. Wilson has thrown 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and for context, Mahomes has thrown 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. One big difference, though, to me is Mahomes has only been sacked 4 times. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson has been sacked 15, which is tied for the 6th most of any other QB in the league. And that's why I hope that the Chiefs can get home to Russell on multiple key plays, something they were able to do against the Vikings, though when they rushed only 4, they were often not able to get there at times without extra blitz help. And that's something they may have to dial up more because George Karlaftis tweaked his hamstring in the Vikings game, has been limited all week at practice and may not play. Then Charles Omenihu sadly doesn't return from his suspension until next week. So players like Mike Dana, FAU, and more are definitely going to need to step up. The question is, how much will the Chiefs really want to blitz Wilson anyway? Because he's played pretty well against the blitz this season. He's had 0 INTs, 2 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 106.7, which is pretty good. Though I am confident in the secondary overall with how well McDuffie, Snead, Justin Reid, B. Cook, and others have been playing. Just got to keep an eye on the speedy Marvin Mims, and then of course you can't forget about Sutton and Judy. But if the Chiefs can lock down Justin Jefferson and company, as well as other teams like the Jags, I'm confident for the most part that they can contain this receiving trio as well. Another positive thing to look at is the return of Nick Bolton, who Jordan Schultz confirmed this morning would be returning. And as we will see here in a moment on the final injury report, he has no game designation, which means he will be playing. The question is, how much will he be playing? Either way, the defense has been going wild this year, being the only team in the league that hasn't allowed more than 21 points in a game, and the defense hasn't given up more than 20 in a game. They actually average just 16 points per game allowed, which hopefully is the score they are able to keep Denver around this Thursday. For the Chiefs and their offense, I'd love to see them get the run game established because, and this is not a typo, the Broncos have been allowing an average of 187 rushing yards per game, which is absolutely insane. I'm also going to be looking for Mahomes to continue getting in rhythm with his fairly young wide receiver core. Rice could have a game. Justin Ross may see some more snaps, maybe. He definitely would love more opportunities, admitting himself to the media yesterday that he's got to clean things up and do more with the opportunities given. Another big question is, will Travis Kelce be playing in this game, or nah, he was limited all week in practice, and Andy Reid made it seem like it will be a game time decision, saying that Travis has done well the last couple of days, has gotten quite a bit of treatment on it, and he's feeling better. He said Kelce is always honest with him about this stuff, so they will talk through it as the game gets close. If he doesn't play, though, or plays a very limited amount of snaps, everyone once again is going to need to step TF up, because even though Kelce missed out on a drive and a half due to injury last week and returned later with a banged up ankle, he still led the team in targets with 11. So I imagine Rice will see more action, as well as Noah Gray, among others. But honestly, as long as these guys like Rice, Ross and Tony, who have struggled with drops, keep those to a minimum and the offense as a whole can eliminate mistakes, they should be able to walk away from this game with yet another W. Mahomes did throw 4 picks against Denver last year, and he'd probably do well to try to stay away from PS2 because that guy is absolutely phenomenal. With all that being said though, I'm rolling with the Chiefs getting the victory, winning 30-17. Both games last year were a 1-score game, so part of me wouldn't even be surprised if it was closer than that. But looking at the Broncos defense, even sans Kelce, I think the Chiefs are bound to put up somewhere around 30 points. James Palmer noted that Mahomes has never faced the last ranked scoring defense in his career and will for the first time ever against the Broncos. So who knows? Hopefully it's even more than that. Plus the defense is playing lights out, the best in the Mahomes era so far, and should be able to limit Denver's offense enough to get the job done. And since Mahomes became a starter in 2018, the Chiefs have only lost 4 times to AFC West opponents, winning 26 of the 30 matchups, and he's never lost to the Broncos ever. Therefore, I think the streak will live on and the Chiefs will go to 5-1 with the Broncos falling to 1-5. But what about you guys and your thoughts on the score prediction? Let me know in the comments down below. And from here, here's a look at the final injury report before chatting a bit about officiating to see if the Chiefs really do get coddled by the refs more so than other teams. As far as the Chiefs go, there are 3 players listed as questionable. The 2 who aren't surprising are going to be tight end Travis Kelce and defensive end George Karlaftis, who are both limited all week, though Kelce was listed as did not participate on Monday's estimated report. They didn't even practice. It was just an estimation. Nick Bolton, again, isn't given a designation and therefore will play in some capacity, which is good. But the new addition to this list is actually punter Tommy Townsend, who popped up on the injury report today as questionable due to some sort of issue going on with his left knee. So that's not ideal, and I'd assume they'd bring in another punter ASAP to the practice squad and elevate him just in case for tomorrow's game. And for the Broncos, they have 3 players ruled out against the Chiefs. First is a familiar face in Frank Clark, who is already ruled out with an illness, and while he has battled chronic stomach issues for quite a while now, part of me wonders if he just honestly does not want to go against his friends here in Kansas City, but who honestly knows. Next up is defensive tackle DJ Jones out with a knee injury, and outside linebacker Baron Browning also out with a knee injury. Then the only player listed as questionable for the Broncos is tight end Greg Dulcich with a hamstring issue. And now for our feature presentation, the Chiefs have been involved in games like the Super Bowl and a couple of recent ones this season that have fans upset about the Chiefs only getting wins because the refs seem to help them out in these games. In fact, I think the most commented word alone or in a sentence on all of my videos over the past 2 to 3 weeks from these cry asses has been the word ref. So the question that I wanted to answer in this segment is, are the Chiefs actually getting more help from the refs than the teams they face off against, or others around the league in general for that matter? Well, first, let's look at the season and then a league average since Patrick Mahomes became a starter in 2018. So far, over the course of 5 weeks, the Chiefs are currently the 8th most penalized team in the NFL with 33 total, and the only teams with more are the Panthers, Broncos, Saints, Cardinals, Cowboys, Colts, and Packers. And of those 33 flags, the total penalty yards is 266 yards. Meanwhile, their opponents have been flagged 23 times for 198 yards. So, Chiefs opponents have been flagged 10 times less so far for 68 fewer yards. And then, of course, these cellar dwellers will instantly reply saying, it's not about how many they get flagged for, it's when. Sounding like they smoke a couple packs a day. But okay, how about this? In the fourth quarter, these are total penalties. The Chiefs have been flagged 12 times. Their opponents have been flagged 10. A couple of those were offsetting penalties, and then one on the opponent was the Jets coach at the end of the game for roid raging out when it was basically already over. And I think one of the Chiefs penalties was declined because the result was a first down anyway, but there you have it. And this rabbit trail of research all started because after the Vikings game, Brett Coleman tweeted out, so let me get this straight. Calling the Chiefs on 10 penalties for nearly 100 yards, more than double the Vikings penalties overall, is what rigging the game for them looks like? Well, yeah, Brett, it is, especially for those who have an extremely low IQ. But remember, it's only about when they're called, not how many, which I find ironic because there are penalties called in every quarter that help extend drives and can lead to points, not just in the fourth, but I digress because Brett then took it a step further, saying in the Mahomes era from 2018 until now, the Chiefs have the 3rd most accepted penalties overall and the 7th most in the fourth quarter or OT, which is 146 Q4/overtime penalties accepted. A couple of other things I found interesting is that opposing teams have been flagged for roughing the passer on Mahomes 20 times total in 94 games played, which is an average of 0.21 times per game. And I think the average is probably the safest metric to look at here because not all quarterbacks have played the same amount of games. And therefore, here's some QBs the refs have flagged opposing teams for roughing the passer more on average than Mahomes. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Justin Herbert, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, and nearly at the top of this entire list is John Josh Allen, who the refs have called roughing the passer on teams he's faced 27 times in just 86 games, which is an average of 0.31. I even took it a bit further thinking, well, maybe Mahomes gets helped out more on third downs or something by the refs flagging the other teams in more crucial situations, but it wasn't really the case because there were plenty of QBs who saw more roughing the passer flags thrown on the opposing teams on these third downs, such as Tom Brady, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, and the list goes on. All in all, I can't find anything blatantly obvious that screams, see, look, the refs are indeed intentionally rigging it for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, are there times when some of these flags were thrown later on in the game? Sure, but I'm not seeing this happen any more for the Chiefs than other teams when actually digging into this data. How about just admit this? The Chiefs are great at winning football games. No? Well, okay then. Furthermore, football rules analyst Dean Blandino recently said that the officials are graded out on their performance in each game, and if those grades are too poor, they don't get opportunities to officiate in the playoffs and could even find themselves out of the league, and therefore they aren't looking at a particular team and their records.
So they don't look at that. I know that's a popular narrative around fans that the Chiefs say they're a successful team, they're going to get the calls. That stuff tends to even out over the course of time.
And with all that being said, after looking at the data, what say you guys? Is the league rigged in favor of KC to help Patrick Mahomes and company win more? Or are the Chiefs just really good at winning games and the fact that they play so many playoff/primetime games gives them more overall attention than others? How do you see it? Let me know your thoughts either way in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?